Invariably, when I tell people that I teach preschool outside, their very first question is, well, what do you do when it rains? Because I think rain or getting rained on is the worst thing that they can imagine. But I'm going to tell you the truth. Rain is not the most difficult type of weather that we face from my point of view. From my point of view, the wind is my nemesis because the wind makes it very difficult to go through with whatever you have planned. It blows the children's nature journals around. It flips the pages of a book when I'm trying to read the book to children. It might prevent us from going into the forest at all, just because the hazardous wind is picking up, blowing things around, making it dangerous. And then we are just staying in a clearing. Now, I could choose to be completely frustrated by the wind, but I, over the years, have adopted the mindset. I think I read somewhere, and I don't know who I'm quoting, that we should take children outside even when the weather is imperfect, because it teaches the children to not just tolerate the bad days, waiting around for the good ones, but to make the best of what we have. Hello, I'm Nicole Trevillas-Fravel, and this is Wildwood Teaching. And the way that I've decided to make the best of what I have on these end of winter, super windy days is to embrace the wind as my teaching partner, as another loose part. We know we're interested in it, we can see it happening, so let's use it to teach across our preschool curriculum. So today, I'm going to share with you a number of ideas of how I use the wind to teach various subjects over the years. Now, I have kind of separated these ideas according to domains, right? Here's an idea for math, here's an idea for literacy. That isn't necessarily how it's going to play out when you bring it to children, because children aren't making those demarcations. They're exploring in a number of different domains at the same time. And it also might mean that if you are following the children's lead, you are bringing a provocation to them and they are taking it in a completely different direction and embracing what they feel is challenging and interesting to them at the time. Okay. And so I think when we start talking about wind with children, or before we start using it as a loose part, it is very helpful to help children kind of grasp what is wind. And so over the years, sometimes I've just brought this question to the children, right? Wind is invisible. It's air, right? How do we know that the wind is blowing? And you can explore this through a sensory experience, walking through the woods, sitting in the sit spots, just being outside somewhere and posing this question to the children. And then encouraging them, use all of your senses. How do you know that the wind is blowing? Is it because you can see the leaves flutter, or because you can feel it against your skin? Maybe you can hear it as it goes between things. So this is a way to have that sensory experience and some mindfulness while thinking about what is wind. Another way to bring the senses into an exploration of wind is to create some wind chimes. And I often just have the children dangle things from a stick. And I like to use craft wire for children to dangle it because it doesn't really require knots. It's just something that kids can wrap. Right? And so it's an easier fine motor experience, and you can purchase actual wind chimes that they can kind of dangle onto the end. You can have them gather natural materials, right? And they can add new wire or wrap the wire they already have around their objects so that they click against each other. Whatever objects you have or whatever they can find outside. I do like to sometimes encourage the children to use some objects that may or may not make a sound, either if they're blowing by themselves or against other things, because that's a different way to explore sound. Is that sometimes some things don't make sounds. If you're looking for more of a literacy type activity with the wind, I like to make what I call wind puppets. And these are vinyl streamers because they hold up to the rain, but you can use tissue paper, you can use regular paper, whatever it is. And then the children are going to make their puppet. It can be an actual recognizable something. It can just be a creature of their own making, right? Maybe I'll add a little tail here. Right. And then once you have one or more characters, I'm going to get this through the holder. And depending on how thick your ribbon is, the children don't necessarily need to tie it. Depending on how thick your ribbon is, depending on how heavy your wind is, you're just going to hang these from tree branches, maybe two characters next to each other. And as the children observe them moving, they're going to narrate the movements in the story of what they think is happening. Right? My pretzel man was dancing in the wind when, oh no, he bumped into a dog. Hello. Whatever the children are doing, because remember that oral storytelling is an important part of early literacy. Another way to use those wires is to take a craft wire, string it between two tree branches, hang a paper clip along those branches so that it's going to be pushed by the wind, and set up a little message station so that children can write messages to each other. Now, remember, writing for children, for young children, we are going to just get across the idea that we are communicating through a written form, right? So can be kind of a, I can't wait until the sun comes out and the wind goes away. And then they're just going to clip that paper onto the little transfer station that you set up. Watch the wind blow it to their friend, who can unclip it and decipher the message. Other ways of letting wind do the work for you is to let it draw for you. So if you want to do some wind-based art, again, just the craft wire, wrapped it around just a little cap of a Sharpie. I use Sharpies because they are somewhat waterproof. Again, I'm usually dealing with wind and rain. Any writing implement will work. Paint and a paintbrush will work. And then again, you're going to hang this from a branch and let the wind blow it around your paper and see what designs the wind makes for you. Children can switch out the colors to make whatever design that they are making to partner with the wind. Now, you can also combine art and science in a STEAM type of activity by creating something that is powered by the wind. Two separate occasions over the years with groups of children, we've made traveling seats so that the children take out the construction paper, the tape, the paper clips, whatever craft materials you have available to the children, and they try to design a seed that is going to plant itself using wind power. There are so many different things that you can make that then can take advantage of wind power. You can make pinwheels, you can make weather vanes, you can make sailboats, you can make any type of wind-powered vehicle, right? You can set it to wheels and let the wind move it. You can make paper airplanes, something where they are doing both the artistic design and the engineering design. And then another way to bring science into it is to talk about how the children can manufacture their own wind, right? And so you could just have a basket of objects, some materials that they might be able to move in certain ways to create wind. I thought maybe that would create wind. It doesn't seem to be moving my hair at all. And again, right, some objects in your basket are going to create wind, some are not. Some are going to need different motions to create wind. So these are all things that the children are going to explore. Now, if you want to bring a math component to it, right, then you're going to focus on data collection as they are doing this type of science. So you could have a physical T-chart that the children are making, right? This one creates wind. This one does not create wind. And children might need to then at the end, after they make that T-chart, which has more, do more objects create wind, or do less objects create wind? Maybe they could measure the strength of the wind that they create. So they're going to take their objects that make wind and see which ones can make a cotton ball move or which ones cannot. Or maybe you're measuring how far that cotton ball or that balloon or whatever objects you have is moving, right? What is the strength of the wind? And you can measure that by making sure that you mark the distance, right? And then you can either take yarn, put those yarns up next to each other as a non-standard comparing length. You could have that beginning and end point, and then, putting pebbles or something that you're then counting how long. You could, if you think your children are ready for it, bring out the rulers, the yardsticks, and measure it that way and how far something moved. You can also use the wind or manufacture the wind through a fan to talk about how far a particular object moves. So instead of saying, which type of wind moved my object the farthest, which object moved the farthest in the wind, and then why? So we're going back to, what do these particular objects have in common? What is different about the ones that perhaps are more dense and don't move as far in the wind? And so there are a number of ways to really lean into using the wind to teach some science, math concepts, to encourage the children to really play with the wind, to learn more about its operation, and to get over that hump of where we're not just whining about the wind, but we're learning how to use it as a partner for our curiosity, to investigate and make the best of whatever weather life brings at us. So give some of these ideas a try, and then join me here next week for another episode of Wildwood Teaching, when I will be talking about some of my favorite weather books, wind and other types of weather. I will see you there.